Good evening, folks. I am back with Father McMahon for the 6th episode here of the Top 12. We're getting to the meat of the order. We've done 3 through 12. We've done the honorable mentions. Now it's time for the 2 big ones.
It's game time. It's game time. I think we can do a recap just to let the fans go over those honorable mentions and then the 12 down to number 3 before we hit 1 and 2.
So, Father, let's start out with your pick for number 2.
You know, it's difficult, Joe, as I said. I've labored over this one. I think that in a number of different ways we could have had other people at the number 1. I mentioned John Carlisle or Charles Deister, Carlisle for the overall leadership, captain, work ethic, and then Charles Deister for having, just having that heart, the heart of the lion. As a basketball player, strictly speaking, someone like Michael Middlemore, there have been, any for different reasons they could have been number 1. But it's pretty clear to me, I think objectively, that the 1 and the 2 are 1 and 2, but they're very close. I would lean to even saying they're tied at 1. But we've got to come up with a 1.
There's got to be a winner.
There's got to be a winner. There's got to be a 2. I think the biggest difficulty really is the fact that they're just so different in positions. One being a point guard and a really pure point guard. The other one being a big man, a 5, but someone who could go play a 4, even play a 3. And I think when we get to the starting lineups in different situations in the next installment, we'll look at that. But I think we got to come right down to it, and I'm going number 2 with the all-time assist leader, one of the area's all-time assist leader. I think he's in the top 30 in the top 30 or 50 even in the state. James Deister, almost 400 assists. I think as a basketball player, even taking into consideration the rest of the list, this is probably number 1. James was athletically probably our best athlete as a player. Very quick, could jump, not very tall, but just a great athlete. Could score when he wanted to, but really didn't do it. Maybe didn't do it enough, and that's one of the things that keeps me from. I tried to find some negative to put 1 as 1 and 1 as 2. Just a great player, exciting to watch, made everyone better, was not concerned about scoring, was concerned about winning, wanted to pass the ball. I mean, a beautiful point guard. It was a pleasure to watch. I think at the beginning of this year, we saw how much we missed him. Someone like Ian Burns, who maybe has difficulty creating his own shot, or has. He's made great strides, and now his 8 to 14 foot jump shot is almost money when he takes it. However, he relied entirely upon Deister to a great extent, as did almost everyone else. And you could even say that the number 1 relied to a great extent on getting the ball from James. If we had James this year, it would have been just a team maybe beyond beating. But I put him at number 2. Fantastic player, incredible work ethic. He's one of our Hammer Award winners. I mean, a burning desire. One negative might have been the fact that he was both the point guard and he was the captain of the team, but almost non-vocal. And I think to me that probably was the clincher to put him at 2 and not 1. If he had been more vocal, if he had a little more of the Charles Deister, his older brother, in him, I think, and not much, we didn't need too much, because he was a far superior player than Charles, but just a little more vocal, that probably would have put him at number 1. But I mean, a fantastic player. In my mind, as the years go by, you forget a lot of the negatives, as many as you can. You just think of, great on defense, great anticipation. One of those select few who actually anticipated, didn't merely react, had it all. Number 2 could be arguably number 1. I think it's really up in the air. Well, but I'm going to go number 2 with James. Great point guard, definitely the best point guard we ever had, and possibly the very best player we've ever had.
Well, I'd say now that we've heard that too, everyone was probably taking a deep gasp to see here what the number 1 is, but I think it would be a bit assumed if James is number 2.
So number 1 is John Radomski. But John is the only player in La Salette history to get 1,000 points. I think it's 1,143. He scored in the single game high score, and he's maybe 8 to 10 times he's in that top 25 list of single games, and a number of them were very important games. I think the one that really stands out was a really tough overtime loss to Arcola, coming off a state football championship. They had a very good basketball team. I think they won the regional, maybe even the sectional, but they were in the sectional final that year in 2016. In that game, John had 35 points. When we really needed hoops, John made the hoops. In the Indiana Christian State tournament, and the Final Four in the championship game, came up big. He was someone who could play inside, almost money inside around the hoop, and then he could also hit the 3, could dribble a little bit, complete player, and he really, again, he's a Hammer Award winner. I think the reason I really put him at 1 eventually was I think we got everything we could possibly get out of John. He squeezed all the potential out of himself by an immense amount of hard work. Memory, I can remember his freshman year, it was September, playing a little pickup in the gym. I was still physically able to get out there and mix it up with the boys a little bit. It's probably a half-court game though at that time, and it was down south then. I remember playing it, and he was skinny, hadn't played much basketball, certainly didn't have great skills, very little skills, certainly not anything refined, but you could see he had nice hands. There was something to work with, and I remember saying to him, if you work hard, you can become a really good player, and he did that. To me, that's one of the great examples of what someone can do here, and the long-term goal of really putting the effort and the energy into that, and I think that's outstanding. So great rebounder, great, eventually, and it's someone who maybe is naturally a little more timid, which is something a lot of our boys have, but at some point it clicked and he realized, I can impose myself on the game, and he did that. Again, an only 1,000-point scorer. He was a special honorable mention in the News Gazette. He's the only person for La Salette who's ever been Athlete of the Week for the News Gazette, recognized there. He was selected for an all-star team, didn't play because he was playing rugby. That's something both he and Deister did, which I think is amazing. Deister maybe to a higher degree, showing the athletes if they had concentrated on basketball because both of them were able to get a scholarship in college and play at the next level. When they decided, both of them, James still currently is now at the Brothers Novitiate, trying to be a religious brother. John had tried the seminary rather than going off to college. So they decided to play rugby as seniors, hadn't played before. They go out there, they were starters, and James was capable of being an all-state level player with some amazing plays, not really knowing the game because he didn't play. So there you have it, 1 and 2. It was a pleasure watching them. It was a pleasure for the most part. There were certainly, as always, those moments, but 2 guys who made themselves into players, had some athletic ability. I put John at 1 because I think he got everything he could get out of his abilities. But at the same time, I think you could easily put Deister at number 1. But you have to make the choice. So there we go, 1 and 2.
Wow.
The top 12.
Well, thank you for that bit of La Salette history, Father. I think we do have to give a shout out to all the boys who've done the hard work to get us these stats, to get the video together. It's not just Father and I doing all the hard work behind the scenes. The boys do a lot.
Oh, this is easy. This is a pleasure. This is talking about La Salette hoops, especially when in retrospect, because we're basically focusing on the good. I mean, we look at those. You look at those clips. You think these guys are NBA talents. I think we could probably put maybe in the future we'll do the opposite. No, we'll leave it at I think, whoa, there's Populous and Middlemore, and all they're doing is hitting shots. It's incredible.
Well, thank you, Father, for sitting down with me again today.
It was a pleasure.
Coming up in the next game, we'll have some final reflections with Father McMahon on the basketball program during his tenure here at La Salette. Thank you.